Morning, gang. It is 7:20 in the morning, and I am hanging out in a parking lot of a doctor's office in Kirkland. And this is sort of a regular follow-up with my doctor who kind of manages my pain medication. This is, every 2 to 4 months, something like that, I got to go in and see this fellow who's really smart fella. And we've had a good working relationship for a long time. When I first went in to see him, I think I was probably 380 pounds, and I was walking with a cane, and all of that stuff, and he's been a real help, but he's getting out of the general practitioner business. And so I've been trying to marshal some resources and find some providers that I trust to kind of help offload some of that other stuff. But he's been kind enough to continue to manage my pain meds and make recommendations in the meantime. It's hard to find a doctor that you can trust, especially with hobbies and proclivities and other sorts of things like mine, and just in general challenges like mine that are probably whole system challenges and not just one little broken piece. The reductionist approach to medicine, it certainly attempts to be in keeping with what science has to offer, but the body is really a whole big ass machine, and if one piece is busted or there's something wrong with it, stuff goes wrong or haywire all over the place, man. It's there aren't really any or not a ton of spare parts in the body, and you find that out the moment that you break a bone, or some other thing happens and you lose access to a piece of it, man. You're suddenly things become a lot more challenging. You have to adapt. And on the other hand, in the kind of the Byzantine hierarchy of medicine here in the States, you've got specialists, many of whom won't pick up a phone and talk to each other. And so, for want of a little bit of a culture of courtesy, there's a situation where you might have someone who's, say, recommending a very invasive surgery who won't talk to another one who's recommending maybe just some stretches and some physical therapy and maybe wait a couple of months, kind of thing, and so there are some challenges there with the medical culture. And as much as I really just loathe the non-rigorous approach and language of like alternative medicine, stuff like that, I think that there is a shitload of hokum in that. Don't get me wrong, I'm very skeptical of the model, but the map is not the territory, right? So it's entirely possible / probable that after many generations of trial and error, you land on a system that works. Your theory, your explanation for why it works is bullshit. And we've seen this before in the history of science. If you look at epicycles, right, or any of that kind of stuff, phlogiston, of course those are bogus theories, but they were sufficiently explanatory. They were better than a random guess by an increment. And so I'm in a position where I'm in so much pain all the time that that I'm willing to attempt acupuncture if I'm willing to consider going under the knife proper to get rods put in my back or something like that, which that's nobody's put that on the table yet, but it's certainly on my mind. Then I'm willing to go get some needles put into my epidermis. It's fine. But at the same time, I have to be careful. I have to be vigilant that I'm not being taken in by someone who wants to apply a model in a way that comes at great cost to me and dubious benefit, right? So it's definitely a dance, and everybody, all of my friends and loved ones, all have kind of their own take on all of these possibilities. And they all have advice, and they all have opinions, and that's great. It's fantastic. and they sometimes argue with each other. That's less great, but hey, I get it, you know. Nobody wants anybody to like take bad advice, and everybody has a different opinion of what constitutes good advice. And so my perspective on that sort of thing has always been, I really appreciate the love that comes through in that circumstance. And I don't always know what all my options are, so I'll stack them up and I'll start looking into them, and I'll make a decision for myself based on kind of what I see. So by all means, give the advice. You know, if you want me to go hang out with somebody who does some kind of thing that you consider to be possibly healing or therapeutic, you know, even if it's wooey or whatever, you know, I'll make that decision for myself. Like acupuncture is a thing, for instance, I'm willing to try. Less likely to be interested in paying somebody to, like, you know, do something involving crystals, because I think that is, you know, an entire fabrication. So yeah, it's all by all means keep giving advice, you know, and keep showing the love, and you know, because that's really what's important. Like when people are trying to marshal that resource, the resource of their knowledge, in order to dispense advice, in a way, what they're saying is, hey, Lucas, I love you, and I want you to be okay, and this is something that I've got kicking around in my dome, that I think might be of help to you, and I really appreciate that, man. It really, probably the thing that makes the biggest difference in my life in terms of coping day to day with pain is just knowing that people are out there and they give a shit. It makes a difference, you know, and it has not always been so in my life, and I'm sure that everybody watching this has had that feeling of being alone as well, and so I'm not alone right now, and that matters a lot to me, and I appreciate that. So yeah, in a few minutes here, I'm gonna go in. We're gonna do the follow-up. I'm probably gonna pee in a cup to make sure that I'm using my drugs correctly, which, as far as I can tell, I am. Then we get some prescriptions, and then I think I'm gonna try and go crowd the office of the physiatrist who ordered the MRI that I got the other day, to see if I can get the radiologist report emailed to me, so that I can send it off to other folks, so that I'm not waiting on the earliest convenience of a leisurely specialist who might or might not be holding my test results a little bit hostage, as a function of what they consider to be a good use of their time. And we'll just take it from there, day at a time, 10 minutes at a time. Cheers.